Can everybody see and hear? Assalamu alaikum. Can everybody see and hear? Okay, cool. Alhamdulillah. Can't see. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa salatu wa salam ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah. Got a couple of minutes before Maghrib. Alhamdulillah. Just finished my Arabic class, so I figured I had a few minutes to open up a discussion, inshallah ta'ala. First and foremost, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Eid Mubarak to everyone. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yataqabbal minna wa minkum salih al-amal. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from me and accept from you all our righteous deeds. Kullu aam wa antum bi khair. Every year may you be upon good, as the Arabs say. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed all of us during the time of Ramadan to recharge our battery. Everybody should be charged right now. You should be energized right now. You should be ready to tackle the world right now. Right now, your iman should be on a high right now. You should be depressed that Ramadan is gone, and you should be charged. Your battery should be really charged right now. All right? All right, so there's a hadith that I covered in my hadith class on Saturday. And it led me to a greater discussion, as smaller lakes lead you into bigger bodies of water. That's usually how it works. So when you start off with small pieces of knowledge, usually those things will take you on a journey to bigger spaces where larger discussions can be had. So one of the things that we talked about Saturday was how low the expectations for marriage or for couples to stay married in the Islamic community is. All right, the expectation is not that the marriage is going to work. The expectation is that, if it ain't working for you, then keep it moving. That's pretty much the expectation. So we were covering the hadith of Aisha, the hadith of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam got into an argument. Aisha and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam got into an argument. And Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he asked permission to enter into the house of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and when permission was granted, when Abu Bakr entered, he heard Aisha raising her voice at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She's shouting at him. She's shouting at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is Aisha, the mother of the believers, raising her voice at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So as the narration mentioned, فَأَذِنَ لَهُ فَدَخَلَ. So permission was granted and he entered. فسمع عائشة رافعة صوتها على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, and he overheard his daughter raising her voice over the voice of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. And as I said in a couple of posts ago on Instagram as well as on Twitter, that marital problems doesn't care how much money you have, doesn't care how religious you are, how spiritual you are. Everybody is going to have problems in their marriage. We're essentially taking two people from two different walks of life and we're merging them and putting them in the same space together. As Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, a man praised another man in front of Umar, right? He said, Inni ahsabu anna fulan such and such was such and such. He said that I consider such and such to be such and such. And Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, perhaps you're only saying this about the person. He asked him, he said, have you ever done business with the person? And the man said, no. He said, have you ever lived with the person? He said, no. He said, have you ever traveled with the person? He said, no. He said, wa ahsabuka, I consider you ahsabuka and qad qulta hadha li'annaka ra'aytahu sajidan fil masjid. Right? He said, I consider that you're saying this about him because you saw him prostrating in the masjid. That's it. You're making this judgment that he's a good person based upon the fact that you've seen him praying in the masjid. Basically, Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu is saying that you cannot make a general statement about someone that they are a good person simply because you see them praying in the masjid. You guys follow me? You understand that? And we often make that mistake, especially as it relates to marriage. We'll say he's a good brother. We'll vouch for someone and we'll say, no, he's a good brother. I see him in the masjid all the time. Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu is telling the man that perhaps you're only saying that this person is honest or truthful or a good brother because you saw him prostrating in the masjid. Basically, Umar is saying that is not enough for you to say about this person, for you to validate this person's character, vouch for this person simply because you saw him praying in the masjid. And if that was the case during the time of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, then what about now? What about today? When you have people who sell drugs, right, and go to the masjid and pray, and then leave the masjid and go right back out into the streets and do whatever it was they were doing. You have people who post pictures of themselves on Instagram drinking and smoking, and then you see them in the masjid praying. If that was the case with Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, how much more is that applicable today, that just because you see somebody in the masjid is not enough for you to validate the person? Oh, I see the brother in the masjid all the time. So what? So what? You see the brother in the masjid all the time. The man who killed Ali ibn Abi Talib was a Hafiz Quran. You understand? The man who severed Ali's head from his body, radiyallahu anhu, was a man that was Hafiz Quran, that Umar radiyallahu anhu sent to Egypt to teach people Quran. This was the same guy who killed Ali ibn Abi Talib. Hafiz Quran. So don't tell me the brother's a good brother or the sister is a good sister because they're always in the masjid. What does that mean? That means absolutely nothing. That means that they pray, they go through the rituals of Islam. And that's not enough to vouch for someone's character in terms of marriage. Marrying somebody to somebody because you see them in the masjid all the time. So what? And we have to get out of that mindset that, I see the brother in the masjid all the time. So what? The brothers at the masjid for Fajr. So what? Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu was stabbed at Salatul Fajr by an individual in the community that everybody thought was okay. He wasn't Muslim, but the fact of the matter is that, it doesn't matter whether the person is at the masjid, for Fajr, or at the masjid for Isha. That's only one aspect of Islam. And we take that and we use that as a gauge, a broad gauge to judge a person, to say whether or not the person is a good dude or not, or she's a good sister or not. No, that's not enough. That's not enough. All right, so going back to the hadith, Abu Bakr entered and he heard Aisha, his daughter, raising her voice over the voice of the Prophet ﷺ, right? And that shows that marital problems don't care how religious you are. Everybody is going to experience marital problems. Let me tell you why people experience marital problems. Hold on one second. Okay, so let me tell you why people have problems in their marriage, or one of the reasons why people have problems in their marriage. Give me 1 second. Let me fix this computer. Why people have problems in their marriage is because a lot of times it has to do with where you are. Excuse me. All right. A lot of times it has to do with where you are in terms of your own family structure and where you fall into your own family structure. Let me explain. Okay, so as I talked about this in my book, right, The Revolution of Love, right, people fall into different categories in terms of their own family structure. So if you are a first child, usually the first child is the type of child that is very outgoing, very independent, and in many instances very selfish, very arrogant, right? This is usually the first child syndrome, right? Then you have the second child, right? The second child is usually very needy, very, always seeking attention, always, surrounding themselves by crowds of people, always want to be a part of the in crowd, because this is the child that was born after the first child. The parents put a lot of energy into the first child, right? So by the time the second child comes, the parents kind of got the whole parenting thing down, and they're not as vigilant or as diligent with the second child as they were with the first child. The nostalgia is over with, right? And then you have the third child, or the last child, right? Whatever category that child falls into, and that child is usually the loose one, the one that didn't have any rules, didn't have any. Usually this is the child that the parents said, all right, that's it, we're not having any more children. And they were very loose or very lax with that last child, right? Okay, so when you take a husband who was the first child, right? And this is the child that is independent. This is the child that is selfish, sometimes arrogant, got it all figured out. All right, and you take that husband and you pair that husband with a woman who is the second child, very needy, needs attention all the time, constant attention. So you place the woman who's the second child, always needs attention, with a husband who is the first child, is very independent, very selfish, very, outgoing, right? That's obviously going to create a problem. What's the problem that's going to create? She's not going to get enough attention. He's always going to feel like she's needy, right? Think about that. These are some of the things that contribute to the marital problems that people have. And these are natural things that are never going to change. You will never not be the first child of your parents. You will never not be the second child of your parents. You're always going to be the first child. You're always going to be the second child. You're always going to be the last child. So these syndromes remain with you for the duration of your life. So that means that the people that you are married to are going to have to endure this and learn how to navigate around these nuances. It happens. So these are marital problems, and these are natural problems. And we're not even talking about, just outside influences. People's heads are being pumped up with information, false information a lot of times from friends, from, relatives, from people who, maybe don't want good for you or do want good for you, but don't know how to want good for you. All of these things contribute to a lot of the problems that we have in our marriages. Okay. So Aisha's raising her voice at the Prophet ﷺ for يَتَنَاوَلُهَا. So Abu Bakr went to go grab Aisha. This is his daughter, right? And he knows that he didn't raise his daughter like this. So he went to go and grab Aisha, and the Prophet ﷺ came in between Abu Bakr and his daughter. All right? And eventually Abu Bakr left, and then he came back days later and he found them laughing. And before Abu Bakr left, the Prophet ﷺ made a joke with Aisha. He said, "Ama ra'ayti, ama tarina anni hiltu baynaka wa bayna ar-rajul." Don't you see how I came in between you and that man? Meaning he was going to hurt you, and I came in between you and him. That means although that you were raising your voice at me, you were arguing with me, or whatever the case may be, you're still my wife. And that the love that we have for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it overshadows any marital problems that we have. Meaning, no matter how bad our marital problems get, I never not want good for you. And I know that's a double negative, right? There's never a time where I don't want good for you, or I'm not going to protect you, right? I'm not going to protect you. That he protected Aisha, even though just a few moments ago she was yelling at him. She was raising her voice, so much so that Abu Bakr tried to grab her to stop her and discipline her from raising her voice at the Prophet ﷺ. And along with all of that, when Abu Bakr went to go grab her, the Prophet ﷺ came in between. It's like, no, she's still my wife. I'm not going to let you put your hands on her. She's still my wife. Meaning that the love, the foundation of their relationship was love for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you and your spouse do not build a foundation in your family of love for the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to first and foremost see each other as brother and sister to one another in Islam. That husband, your wife is your sister in Islam, and sister, your husband is your brother in Islam. And that love that you have for one another for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it overshadows any marital problems that come up. Any marital problems that come up first has to be filtered through the love that we have for one another for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, obviously, he didn't allow that to bother him to that degree, because some of us as men, we get so deep in our feelings when our wives, come out their face to us a certain way, right, or talk to us a certain way. We get so deep in our feelings that we forget to see her as our sister in Islam. We forget to see her as our sister in Islam. And I mean, something may happen and whatever the case, and we might laugh and find humor in it because, we're so deep. Don't allow yourself to get so lost in your feelings that you actually forget the person that you're living with is your brother or your sister in Islam. This is your brother or your sister in Islam. You understand? You guys follow me. Don't get so lost in your feelings. We get caught up in our feelings and we forget that the person that is in front of us, the person that is living with us, is our sister or our brother in Islam. This is how domestic violence starts. That you ball up your fists or you grab something and you go after this person because you no longer see this person as your brother or your sister in Islam. The Prophet ﷺ said there will be 7 people that will be shaded on the day where there will be no shade except the shade of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of those 7 people, رَجُلَانِ تَحَابَّ فِي اللَّهِ اجْتَمَعَ عَلَيْهِ وَتَفَرَّقَ عَلَيْهِ, is 2 people who love each other for the sake of Allah. They united upon that and they do not separate except on that. Meaning one of them do not depart from this world. You do not leave from this world except upon the same love of Allah that you united upon from the very beginning. You do not depart from one another in this life except on the same love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you united upon. Meaning the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala endures even until death. It endures even until death. Very important for us to understand that. So the Prophet ﷺ made a joke with Aisha. He said, don't you see how I just saved you from this man? I just saved you from him. And he was joking with her. Making a joke, making light of the matter. And when Abu Bakr came back a few days, he heard them laughing and joking, and he said to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, Ashrikni fi silmikuma kama ashraktumani fi harbikuma. Let me enter when you guys are at peace, just like you let me in when you guys were at war. Meaning marital life is between periods of peace and periods of war, navigating through both of these periods based upon the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The love that you have for one another for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You guys follow me? But the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it endures, it overshadows any other problems, any other issues that we have. He said, let me enter when you guys are at peace, just like you let me enter when you guys were at war. Peace and war is our whole marital life, our life in marriage is going to be between periods of peace where everything is good, right? As Sister Nayela, shout out to Sister Nayela and Brother Hassan Clay. If you guys are having marital problems, go see Sister Nayela and Brother Hassan, that Clay couple, on Instagram. Go check them out. If you are having marital problems, let them fix your marriage. I can guarantee you they can fix your marriage. Whether you're in monogamy, you're in polygyny, go see Sister Nayela, go see Brother Hassan Clay, that Clay couple on Instagram. Check them out, send them an email, get with them. Don't toss your marriage away until you go see them first. I guarantee that. I can guarantee after you spend time with them, they will fix your marriage. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. So, inshallah ta'ala, she always says, we're good for today. She used her hashtag. She said, good for the day. Because in marriage, you can't think in terms of, months down the line. You're good for today. If we're good today, we're good today. I don't know what tomorrow is going to be, right? I don't know how we're going to be tomorrow. You might wake up on the wrong side of the bed. I might wake up on the wrong side of the bed. It happens to the best of us. But today, we're good. Right now, this moment, we're good. I don't know how we're going to be tomorrow. But for right now, we're good. She used the hashtag good for today. For today, we're good. And that's, how you function in your marriage. You can't think in terms of long term of how, because we're human beings. Sometimes, we're good, sometimes we're not good. Our emotions, they topsy-turvy. Sometimes, it's like this, sometimes it's like that. There's no consistency to our emotions. Emotions are not supposed to be consistent. Emotions are not, just like faith, it's not supposed to be consistent all the time. It's an emotion, right? It's not supposed to make sense. It's not supposed to be consistent, right? So the point that I want to make here is that Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he left and then he came back. After seeing his daughter irate, his daughter angry, his daughter upset, do you think that Abu Bakr would have left his daughter in that state if he didn't think that those two could fix that problem? He wouldn't have left. If any one of you walked into your daughter's home and saw your daughter yelling at her husband, would you leave in that state knowing that your daughter was irate, knowing that your daughter was angry and upset? Would you leave in that state? No, because you want to wait around and make sure that your child is okay. Why did Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu feel so comfortable leaving? He left. He walked out. He left. Why did he feel so comfortable leaving? He felt comfortable leaving because the expectation in their community was that you fix your marital problems and you don't allow those problems to trickle over into the community. That was the expectation. And that the expectation was that you stay married. You remain married. That was the expectation. So he didn't have to interfere. He didn't have to, put himself in the middle of that situation, which is also another point from this hadith, is that you ask permission to enter into someone's relationship, right? Abu Bakr asked permission to enter into his home. But when he saw what was going on in the home, he was essentially asking permission to enter into their relationship. Unsolicited advice is the worst type of advice. If I didn't ask you for your advice, don't give me your advice, especially as it relates to domestic affairs. Stay out of domestic affairs, brothers and sisters. When a sister comes to you, sister, and tell you she's having marital problems, ask her, are you giving me permission to enter into your relationship? Because if you're granting me permission, I'm going to give you some advice, inshallah ta'ala. If you're not granting me, because what ends up happening? What ends up happening when you enter into someone's relationship without their permission is that once they end up fixing their problems, they make you the enemy. You are the problem. If you would have never told me this would have never happened. If you didn't never say this to me, then wouldn't have happened. They turn on you. They turn on you. Domestic situations are very delicate situations. Do not enter into anyone's marriage without their permission. And we do it all the time. We give unsolicited advice. We give nasiha, and we think that we're being so genuine and so sincere to this person. I'm just giving you some sincere advice. But if the person didn't ask you for the advice, then you should fall back and not give them advice. I'm not giving anybody advice that don't ask me for advice, because honestly, sometimes people don't need advice. People can fix their problems on their own. You don't need my advice, because sometimes I might give you some advice that might work for me, but might not necessarily work for you, right? Because we don't know how to separate the advice that we would give ourselves and the advice that we need to give to someone else. We don't know how to separate that. So we figure in my attempt to be genuine, I'm going to give you the same advice that I would give myself. Yeah, but it might work for you and it might not work for that person. That advice may work for you. That advice might destroy somebody else's relationship. And we need to know how to distinguish and when to distinguish that. I'm not giving anybody advice that they don't ask me for my advice. When you ask me for my advice, then I'm going to offer what I think would suit your situation. And it's not necessarily what advice I would give myself. It's me observing your situation, seeing your situation for what it is, and then giving you the advice that I think is applicable or congruent with what you're going through. I'm not going to give you what I would give myself, because I'm a different type of person. I know me. I know how I process information. So people say, well, I'm going to give you the same advice I would give myself. La wallahi, I don't want the advice that you would give yourself. I want you to give me the advice that you think is necessary for my situation specifically, right? Absolutely. Everyone knows their situation better than the other person. Going back to the point that I was making is that Abu Bakr left because he knew that the expectation in their community was that you fix your problems and you don't allow your problems to trickle over out into the community, and that you stay married. That's the expectation. In our communities, especially the African American Muslim communities, the expectation is not that you're going to fix your marriage, which is why everybody is in your business. Everybody is in your business. None of your business is personal business in the African American Muslim community. It's everybody's business. Why? Because the expectations are so low. The expectation is so low. Right? The expectation is that, well, if this ain't working for you, then you need to pull out of that situation. Cut your losses, right? No marriage is a loss. I hate when I hear people say that. Well, I can't speak for any other communities. Most of my time is spent in the African American Muslim community. Alhamdulillah, if it's the same as Pakistanis, then alhamdulillah for you being transparent about that. Because usually the immigrant communities don't like to expose, their flaws or their what goes on in their communities, because they maintain this face of perfection. Whereas the African American communities, because we don't know how to maintain a face of perfection, our flaws are just spilled all out into the community, so everyone can see our flaws from afar. So, alhamdulillah, I'm pretty sure a lot of these problems go on in the community, but the expectation is not that you're going to fix your problem. Expectation, Abu Bakr would have stayed and helped his daughter out in that situation, because he would have felt obligated to stay and help her fix her problems. But he left because the expectation of the community was that people, when they have marital problems, they fix them. And they don't allow the marital problems to trickle over into the community. And people get married and stay married. That is the expectation. So if we want the marriages in our communities, to get better, then the expectations of the communities have to be higher. Our expectation has to be greater. Right now, if we even had, are there any expectations? And I mean, in polygyny, please don't even ask about it. Don't even ask about it. In the polygynous situations, we're sitting back hoping and praying and making dua that the situation crumble, so we can simply say, see, I told you you should have never went into the situation to begin with. I told you shouldn't have gone into the situation to begin with. The expectation is that it crumbles. The expectation is that the marriage is going to crumble. There's no longevity in it anyway. That's the expectation. So if we want these marriages, and to be honest with you, if we don't fix the problem with these marriages, this next generation are going to see no need to get married. They're not going to see any need to get married, because we didn't fix these problems with our generation, and then the next generation sees all of the flaws and says, you know what, I'm good on that marriage thing. I'm good on that. I'm good on that. So we have to look at not what is happening to us, but what is going to happen to the next generation. So, inshallah ta'ala, for those of you who have not already signed up, inshallah ta'ala, I'm doing how to get married and divorced in 10 weeks. That will be starting Saturday, August 5th, inshallah ta'ala. And that will be in Philadelphia, at Masjid Sister Claire Muhammad School. We will be streaming it. For those of you who signed up, who paid for the course, you will be allowed into the classroom via internet. We have a classroom, inshallah ta'ala, set up. And this is how to get married and divorced in 10 weeks. That means in the next 10 weeks, we're going to learn everything that you know, that you need to know about marriage, divorce, the khula, everything. Everything. Yes, this August 5th coming up, inshallah ta'ala. The class in total is $500, and that's because we're going to provide you with all of the material, books, workbooks, everything that you need, PowerPoint presentation, everything that you need. Everything that you need, we're going to provide you with all of that. Yes, we're going to teach you how to get divorced. I mean, it happens. So we want to make sure that if in the event couples reach the point where they're going to get divorced, then you need to know how to do it right. In 10 weeks, yes. And on Saturday, it will be the theory. We'll be studying the theory. And then on Sunday, we want to do the practice. We're going to do case studies. We're going to do skits, plays, everything to make sure that I want to be sure that when I leave here, I did my part to make sure that I educated the community to the intricacies of these issues. Absolutely. You're going to learn how to get married, how to select the spouse, what people do wrong. Yes, there's payment plans available. Yes, absolutely. To secure your seat, I believe it's $150 from the very beginning to secure your seat. For those who are going to attend in class, there's only 25 seats available. For those of you online, I believe it's 20 or 15 or 20 seats online. And that's a total of about 40 people. That's pretty much all I can handle at this moment. We will run the course again, inshallah ta'ala. But there's a workbook. There's another book on the wali, booklet on the wali, because there's this whole section in here where we're going to cover the wali, who can be a wali, who can't be a wali, what happens if the wali wants to marry the wakil, the difference between the wali, wakil, all these confusing issues that people who don't understand knowledge confuse. Ali radiallahu anhu, he said, al-ilm kalima katharaha al-jahilun. Ali radiallahu anhu, he said knowledge is just one word, meaning knowledge is very simple. Al-ilm kalima. Knowledge is just one word, very simple. Katharaha al-jahilun. Ignorant people made knowledge expansive unnecessarily. Because when ignorant people speak, people who have knowledge got to come behind them and clarify and explain with so much detail. Unnecessarily, because ignorant people open their mouth and they talk about matters that they have absolutely no knowledge about. Al-ilm kalima, katharaha al-jahilun. That knowledge is very simple, one word, but ignorant people have made it so vast and so expansive unnecessarily. Because they speak without knowledge. So then knowledgeable people got to come behind them and clean up and explain. I mean, you look at all of the books on Tawheed, right? All of the books on Tawheed. All of these books have been written because of how ignorant people have spoken about the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then scholars got to come by and detail so much of it. And it gets confusing. It gets very confusing. So inshallah ta'ala, this is August 5th, inshallah ta'ala, how to get married and divorced in 10 weeks. I can guarantee after you finish this course, you will need to ask nobody any more questions about your marriage, about your divorce, about your khula, about your iddah period, your waiting period, none of that. You're not going to have to ask, go to Google. You're not going to have to go to anywhere else. We're going to learn the theory. We're going to learn the hadith. And then we're going to practice it. We're going to do case studies. I'm going to give each and every, the class members are going to break up into groups of three people to a group, and with each group we're going to do case studies. I'm going to pass out a case study of basically a scenario, and some of these case studies are real life issues. Mind you, I've been doing marriage counseling and involved in this whole marriage piece basically since 2003, and we're now at 2017 going into 2018. So I've been around for a while. I've pretty much seen and heard every scenario that you can possibly think of. Every scenario that you can possibly think of, I've heard it. There's not one scenario that a person can bring me in relation, whether it is a Muslim with another Muslim or a Muslim with a non-Muslim. I mean, like any scenario that you bring me. I've been around scholars and have brought some of these issues overseas and watched how scholars, decipher and dissect some of these scenarios and then, respond and reply. And I've translated some of this stuff. I've translated from scholars. So I mean, like, my experience is just, it's a wealth of experience. A wealth of experience. And through this 10-week course, I want to make that experience available to you, brothers and sisters, inshallah ta'ala, to empower you, inspire you, empower you, and educate you. So inshallah ta'ala, you can go to my Facebook page, Shadeed Muhammad /Roll the admin on Facebook. The document is there. The registration page is there. You can register online, but your seat will not be held for you until you pay the registration fee. When you pay the registration fee, the seat will be held for you. So on a first come, first served basis on my Facebook page, or you can go to my website, www.rawdah.info. Rawdah, All right, you can go to my website and it's also there. It's a Google Doc. You can yes, www.rolltheinfo. You can go there, or you can go to my Facebook page. I just posted the registration page on my Facebook page for those of you who want to register. This will be Saturday and Sunday starting August 5th, Saturday, August 5th, and it will run all the way until October 8th. How to get married and divorced in 10 weeks. The first 4 weeks will be pre-marriage, and that is selecting a spouse. That is the wali, the intricate walis, and then the second half of it will be marriage. What happens inside the marriage, marital nuances, sex, finances, communication, all of those things, the nuances of the marriage, where we go wrong, how to correct the wrongs, the marital contract. What if you got married, you didn't have a contract? What if you got married, you didn't have a wali? You understand what I'm saying? Okay. And then it will be post-marriage, which is on your way out of the marriage, and that is the khula. When you can ask for a khula, when you can't ask for a khula, what is the iddah period of the khula? The divorce, when can you pronounce divorce? When can't you pronounce divorce? When does it count? When doesn't it count? The iddah period, the different types of iddah period, the iddah period of the widow, the iddah period of the divorced woman that doesn't have a menstrual, the iddah period of the divorced woman who does have a menstrual, the iddah period of the divorced woman who doesn't have a regular menstrual cycle, the iddah period of the divorced woman who is pregnant. All of these different avenues or areas, intricacies, trust and believe we will cover every single one of them. You will be given case studies. We will do skits, plays, so you can see how all of this stuff plays out. The theory part will be Saturday, and on Sunday will be the practical application of what you learned on Saturday. We need to get serious about this. We need to get serious about this. Too many people have become casualties of Islamic marriage. Too many casualties, man. Too many people have become casualties of Islamic marriage. And it's sad, man. It's sad because a lot of it is due to ignorance. A lot of it is due to just pure, unadulterated ignorance, man. On the part of many of the imams of the masajid, on the part of many of the brothers and many of the sisters, we become casualties, man. And it's painful. Nobody wants to keep going through that. Even if you never get married again, at very least, you can be able to sift through all of the problems and things that you've gone through, and you can make peace. You can make peace with a lot of the crap that you've gone through in your life. How casualties? What do you mean? What is a casualty of war? A casualty of anything is what? The person that was hurt the most by this particular situation. The casualties, mothers are casualties of the street wars of these children that's killing each other out here. The mothers are the ones that are the casualties. The children, they are murdering each other. The mothers are the ones that are left dealing with the pain of everything that transpired. We are casualties of marriage, Islamic marriages, because we don't do it right. Or we do it right with the wrong intentions, or we do it wrong with the right intentions, and we always end up being the ones that are hurt by it. And we got to live with that pain. We have to live with that pain for the rest of our lives, man. Every time a marriage crumbles, every time a marriage dissolves in our communities, there's pain that is attached to that. There is pain that is attached to that. And some of us never get treated for that pain, the trauma that we went through. We never get treated for that. And we jump right into another relationship, taking that baggage of pain right along with us into somebody else's life. Nobody gets married. Nobody marries someone and brings someone into their life to be hurt. You understand what I'm saying? Nobody does that. Nobody wants to intentionally be hurt. Unless you just, pain is therapeutic for you. There's some people that pain is therapeutic for them. That's just, they thrive off of pain. I'm saying normal people. Normal people got enough of that stuff that they dealing with on their own to want somebody else to come into their life, bringing their baggage of pain with them. And we do it all the time. We do it all the time. We bring our baggage. We're carrying this bag on our back of pain, and we carry it right on into somebody else's life. The payment plan, everything is explained on the registration page. There is a payment plan. We're not asking for the whole $500 up front. The initial, securing your seat is $150. I don't think that there's another payment due until the start of the class or whatever the case may be. Nonetheless, it's broken down. And if you have a special circumstance, then you can send an email to the email that is on the registration page, and inshallah ta'ala, someone will contact you and work with you. We're, like, this is not about making money. You know what I mean? All of the energy, the time, and that I put into this, $500 is nothing for the time and the energy that I put into all of this stuff, the information, everything that is going to be given to you. This is my life. My life, I've gone through things in my life, experienced things in my life to give you this information. As one of the scholars of hadith, he said to one of his students, he said, قَدْ يُسَافِرْ إِلَى خُرَسَانِ لِحَدِيثٍ وَاحِدٍ وَهِيَ لَكُمْ بَلَاشٍ. That people used to travel from Mecca to Khurasan to Iraq on foot for one hadith, and I'm giving it to you for free. Some of the scholars of hadith used to say this to their students. Scholars used to travel, like Imam al-Bukhari would travel from Bukhara, would travel from Khurasan, from Iraq, all the way to Mecca for one hadith. One hadith. And it was given to the students of hadith for free, sitting at the feet of their teachers. So it's not about the money. I'm not in this to make any money. That's not about the money. The money is for you, because if I don't charge you, you're not going to value it. The fee is for you guys. Because when something is offered to you for free, you don't value it. But when we charge you for it, because this is the American mentality, right? We're so messed up mentally that we tend to think that when something is given to us for free, it doesn't really mean anything. But when we paid a lot of money for it, then we can brag and say, I paid this amount of money for it. I mean, like, somebody's offering you the same thing for free. But, right, public education. Well, you can't use public education. That's an oxymoron, because public education is not for the purpose of education. It's to make you a minion. Public education is not education. It's to make you a minion, to make you a follower. If public education was really about education, we would all be entrepreneurs. It's indoctrination, absolutely. It's to maintain the superiority of the system that we live under. Because you're going to graduate with your degree, and then you're going to go work for somebody else, instead of realizing the power that you have in your degree and work for your damn self. You understand? So you're just maintaining the superiority of the structure that we live about. So public education is not about education. The classes, we're still debating between 4 to 6 p.m. or from 5 to 7 p.m. These are not classes that can be taught in the mornings. This is not that type of material. This material has to be taught at a time where people are more relaxed. People have accomplished things in their day, and their day is coming to an end. And then that way they can process the information. We cannot teach this stuff in the morning. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Tell your brother to keep listening. Keep listening. Keep listening, inshallah ta'ala. The capacity is 25 students in class. In class, only 25 students. Online, I believe it's 15 or 20 students. 15 to 20 students. And if you don't get in, and hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, we'll run the course again, probably around December, January. We'll run the course again, inshallah ta'ala. But this is definitely something that you want to be a part of, to empower yourself. Even if you don't have any intentions on getting married, even if you are already married. Yes, inshallah ta'ala. I did have plans to come to the UK actually right after Ramadan ended. But with everything going on in the UK right now, I think I'm going to fall back. I think I'm going to fall back for right now and let things calm down, bi'idhnillah. And hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, as the weather breaks in the UK, probably next year, inshallah, then I will make my way over there. But right now, it's probably not a good idea. I'm an American. We don't function like people from the UK. We don't function like that. We have what's called black rage, right? And the things that you guys are going through in the UK, and I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for you. The things that you guys are going through in the UK right now, that couldn't happen in America. I'm sorry. That couldn't happen in America. Sorry. Somebody getting slapped in the face with a pack of bacon. I mean, I feel sorry for the sister, but I really think it was degrading to Islam to allow that to happen. Even if the guy beats you behind, it doesn't matter. But you're not going to slap me in the face with a pack of bacon and then live to tell about that. You're going to gum it because you're not going to have any teeth in your mouth. Or, you know, some other disaster is going to happen to you. But I'm sorry, you don't get to walk away from that and go tell your story. I smacked a Muslim in the face with a bag of bacon, with a pack of bacon. Not going to happen. I'm sorry. Our religion teaches us to stand our ground, to stand on your feet, to stand with your head up. Not to get online crying, asking people for sympathy. That's not our religion. That's not the religion of Islam. That's not the religion of Islam, ever. Ever. And I mean, you know, different strokes for different folks, but here in America, African American Muslims, just like African Americans, period, we have what's called black rage. Meaning if you push us to a certain limit, all of what's in our DNA that we've inherited from our forefathers, from slavery, all the way up into this very moment, you're going to get all of that. All of that is going to come out at one time. And, you know, we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects the Muslims here in America as well as abroad. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our communities, protect our children, and to give the Muslims, you know, space where they can grow and develop and become strong as a ummah, become strong as a community. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. But here again, go to the website, go to my Facebook page, register, pay your fee, lock your seat down, and let's buckle down and let's learn about this thing called marriage so that we can protect ourselves, protect our children. If you have children, this course is important for you. If you're a single mother and you have daughters, this course is important to you. You need to take this information and then take this stuff home to your families and educate your families. This is what it's designed to do. Empower, educate. Empower and educate. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. They just called the adhan for Salatul Maghrib. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa salama tasliman kathira. Wa akhiru da'wana an alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.